Welcome, podcast 46, Learn Piano in Your Car. If you are learning in your car, I'm going to describe what people can actually see behind me if you are indeed watching. So I'll go into a little more depth just for the people that are indeed listening in their car, because the greatest benefit of this podcast is meant to be that you can learn while you're driving and put into practice what you've learned at home. So for those who are not watching, behind me there are two staves. A stave is the 5 lines that a treble clef or a bass clef sit on. A treble clef is a kind of squiggly symbol. By now in your journey you should be able to recognise a treble clef. A treble clef is usually played by the right hand on the piano. It covers the top part of the keyboard. The bass clef, I always think, looks like an ear, don't you? Or the handle of a cup. Take note of how it sits on the stave. It's on the F line. It starts on the F line and it curls round to the top line of the stave and down, finishes between the bottom 2 lines. Incidentally, the treble clef is also called the G clef. It starts on the G line of the treble clef. So the F clef and the G clef, commonly known as the bass clef and the treble clef. So how does this fit together? When you first start, it can seem a little complicated, but there is a really simple principle behind these 2 clefs. You don't have to learn, or at least they're not completely disjointed, they are actually connected, and here is how. So if we start at the bottom of the bass clef, the first line is G, then the space is A, so I'm talking about the notes that would be on these lines and in these spaces. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A takes you from the bottom line to the top line of the stave for the bass clef. Above the line in the bass clef is B, and then on a ledger line above that, which is just an extra line, it's an extension of the stave. In effect, it would be the 6th line if it went right across. We call that part a ledger line. So it's a ledger line, and that is middle C. Then looking at the treble clef, same note, middle C, and then D is in the space below the first line in the treble clef, then E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So when you read it all together, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. And that is it. Okay, so we then go into different ways to, instead of trying to memorize all that, which is quite a lot of notes. I'm not sure exactly how many. Some whiz would tell me quickly. Probably, I don't know, about 17, 18 notes there to memorize where they are on the staves and then where they are on the keyboard. But that's how it all fits together. And then we give you ways to start to unpick and to identify single notes. So middle C is an easy one because it sits on the ledger line beneath the stave in the treble clef and above the stave in the bass clef. Then you have options. You can either pick anchor notes, so like G in the treble clef on the 2nd line, and maybe G in the bass clef in the top space. But there are other ways to memorise that. But today I just wanted to talk about how they actually fit together. And they originate from originally what was just one big staff that had all of these lines and spaces on it and all of these notes. But then somebody split the great big staff into the 2 and made it a lot easier to read music. So that is the first part of it. I'm going to expand on this tomorrow and the next day. Okay, if you have any questions, it's info@themusicroom.org.uk. I'm Carol Brotherston, the founder of the Perfect Piano Academy. If you want transformation, if you want to learn piano at your own pace, but get help and feedback all the way, then Perfect Piano is the place for you, by the way. It's like running your race at your speed, but having a fence on either side. And the fence on either side is me, keeping you on track. So you're not going to wander off into the wilderness and do your own thing and develop wrong technique and wrong understanding and get really good at reading music maybe, but your technique might be rubbish. I'll keep you on track and balanced, and you'll be able to progress really quickly. So check that out if you're interested, www.perfectpiano.org.uk, for transformation, not just progress, not just learning, transformation. Catch you tomorrow.